Hey, good morning, Sumit on this side. So this is going to be a very different kind of a video today. I'm experimenting something that hit me a while back, but the clarity only came like 2-3 days ago, and I really want to try this out because I feel like this is a better approach to building full stack applications. As you know, that's what we are trying to build here. As in, there is a web interface, there is a web UI, like traditionally you have probably seen in any application that you interact with, like that is there on the web or on mobile. It's the same concept. Most of these applications coordinate somewhere else in the backend, so that's what we call a backend. Basically, there is some code running on a server somewhere where there is some interaction, there is some coordination happening. So let's say people, when you're buying, selling on a website, or when you are looking for offers, let's say job posting, etc., somebody is posting that job and somebody is applying to it, right? Similarly, any kind of such marketplace, or even tools, when you're interacting with tools, for example your bank, let's consider it a tool, because there is no person to person interaction happening in general, but you're still interacting with data that you have in that bank account, which means that that data is probably not in the browser directly, right? It's going to fetch it from the bank servers, and that's a very simple analogy maybe to follow, because we are probably, most of us are well acquainted with banking services. So yeah, with that in mind, what one thing that was really striking me is that when we build these full stack applications, what we call full stack applications, as an application which have a back end, front end, and all of it, it was getting a bit hard, and I've seen that it's getting a bit hard to keep the whole context of, like, hey, I'm doing changes in the back end, in the front end, and then there is this glue code. There is this interaction happening between the back end and the front end, and that's what we call generally an API. And all of this in itself, like the two applications themselves are like two full-fledged applications, the back end and the front end, because the front end these days, as you have probably seen with Gmail is a great example. One of the first examples of that is that where the application is like, it has its own, like, it lives in the browser and it does a lot of things for you without even refreshing the page. We call them single page applications, and they basically store a lot of data on your browser. They manipulate the web page directly without even consulting the server at many occasions, on many occasions, and these are called single page applications. So they are in itself like full-fledged applications running directly on the browser, and then of course they are coordinating with the actual email that you have on the Gmail server, and it's doing that coordination on your behalf. But it's taking a lot of those decisions on the browser itself. So you have to think, you have to imagine that these are totally two different softwares you're building, totally two full-fledged applications you're building, and that makes the whole process a bit harder, because it's just too much context that I think we are going through. So something hit me a while back, and this is what we are going to experiment, is that why did Cloud Code, so we use Cloud Code a lot in these videos, as you have seen, but there, of course, like I said, I'm open to a lot of different tools, and we're going to use them. But focused on Cloud Code, the main thing that hit me was that why did they build a command line based tool where Cursor and Windsurf and so many others, like even VS Code with all their AI plugins, all of them are focused on having these graphical user interface, for developers, and they're more developer focused. But I was really starting to trying to understand why is it so that they build a command line based tool, a terminal, which we call a terminal user interface, so TUI, instead of a graphical user interface, GUI. So why did they create a command line or a terminal based interface? And then it suddenly struck me is that, see, the thing is that the terminal, the command line, as you have seen when we are typing stuff here in these videos, or if you have tried them out yourself, is that the terminal is much easier for all of these applications, which are particularly the core logic that runs in the backend. So if you're building this in Python, even Node.js, if you're building in JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, Golang, Rust, all of these languages, and many more, they are actually more comfortable. Like, the language basically sits in the terminal, in a way to speak. I mean, that's a very bad way to put it, but in a way, just to make it easy, yeah, it's probably sitting there, and it's that direct interaction it has to the terminal, and it just makes the whole definition of the whole logic, your product, what you want to build, much easier when you're just focusing on, okay, here is the business logic I want to tackle, print it out, that's it, I want to see it print out on the terminal. No front end, no web app, nothing, no going back and forth through an API to another application. That just removes a lot of the context, I would say, messiness. I will not necessarily say context bloat, because that means something else in vibe coding, in AI coding. but I will say the context becoming too large to just to like, I'm not saying that you're intentionally, like you're unintentionally or intentionally making it bloated. It's just that the context is more compact now because simply your project has become more compact. And I was like, let's try that out. So I restarted both of my projects. And by the way, this is so like ridiculous that you can restart entire project just like that. I just asked Claude, hey, I want to restart this project, but I want to have a terminal focused application. So if you remember my old project, the web app is gone, everything is gone, there's no backend, nothing like that. And the same I did for my other project, Pixely, which is, by the way, more data analysis product. I did the same, and everything is just washed out, cleaned, and they are both now having this technical documentation that was created by Claude. And here I migrated them both to a command line application. Now I'll show you what I'm going to do next, because even after the command line application, I was not really happy, because this is how you have to interact with the command line application, and that was what, like, probably this is also not the best thing out there. So the way I interact is like, for example, I do this, I pass a command. So pub data hub is the name of the application, and then sources, so what data sources are we downloading for, and then you ask for status, and then you get, oh, okay, I've downloaded the total number of items on Hacker News API is like 4 million something, 44 million something, yeah. And then how many items do I have downloaded? Okay, we have 330. So if I do download, for example, I believe sources and download Hacker News, it will start downloading. But the thing that I started, that then I immediately recognized that, oh, okay, so if I'm doing download, yeah, download is happening, that's great, but now my UI is stuck, my terminal is stuck. I cannot really do anything unless I create another terminal, which is kind of a pain in the wrong place, and I don't want to do that. So instead what I thought was, Claude does not have this problem, right? So when you're asking a query to Claude, it's doing something, it's probably writing files in the background. You can still ask further queries, or it's probably just internally branching out to other agents, it's using multiple tools, whatever it is doing, it's not getting blocked on this terminal. So you can still type here, and sometimes I actually type, I keep the typed stuff as I'm thinking what it is doing, as I'm thinking I type it out. My next instruction I've already typed out, which is great because it allows it frees the terminal for you to plan the next things. And it can get more and more complex than this, by the way. You can have a full-fledged, like in our case, the pub data hub, I want a full data browser, right? I want to browse the data that is downloaded. So I definitely need the terminal to be free, and it's not locked by just, okay, I'm downloading and now you cannot do anything. Because see here, I don't have access to, I mean, I can type whatever I want, but it does not do anything. It does not interact. So I asked Claude about this. So and this is the thing that I'm consistently saying in my videos, is that just don't hesitate to ask. Just ask and you'll see. Okay, so what I did was I asked with this question: when I'm downloading from a source, the app is not usable for anything else. How can I download and query at the same time? Please give me very high level compact ideas. So it gave me very high level ideas. It said, okay, you can have a background worker based model, you can have an async thread model, you can have a database locking strategy, you can have event driven architecture, all of those. And I felt like, background worker, I've heard that in in other places. And I felt like, okay, so spawn separate process for downloads, main process handles queries. So basically the main process in this case, what it means is that this UI does not get blocked. So I can still type, and there is something to take my interaction from the UI, which is how, for example, I'm doing this. And if it was still doing some task, I would still be able to do this up and down, etc. So my UI is not blocked, and whatever interaction I do in the UI, it can create a new, let's say, not a full application, but in the application basically can handle, think of a worker, which it can say, hey worker, take this user's query and go ahead and do something with it, right? So there are multiple workers it can manage, and that then behaves more and more like what you would expect the web application to do. But it's still much simpler to codify this, to explain this, to run with this, to prove your business idea, than to build the whole web application. Again, I'm not saying this is something that I've already written in a few places, by the way. I'm not saying that we are I'm not saying that we are not going to build the web application. We're definitely going to build the web application, but going and first figuring out what the business logic is and being able to have some tool in hand is extremely handy. So you have vibe coded something which actually works, like, okay, even if it is in the terminal, can I download data from Hacker News? Can I query it? Can I, wow, I can see the data and I can download from multiple sources. One massive part of then the project is solved, and it got solved faster. If it gets solved faster, it's definitely a win. Then what I can do is, and this is the idea that I'm going to go with again in this coding series, live, is that or recorded, sorry, is that we're going to now add the API layer on top. So first the terminal application, which is responsive, allows us to work while it is doing downloads or whatever else, and then go ahead and have a web API layer on top. So the API layer will allow then us to create the front end, and the front end will interact with the API to give me a browser based UI. So that's the 3-step process. So this is an experiment. Now you'd say, okay, now once you have the whole thing, is it then not confusing to build more features? I'll say no, because I'll still continue using this framework, this process, this thinking way to first build the features in the terminal application. I'm not going to kill off the terminal application. The terminal application and how it works will stay. We'll simply take that application and always tell Claude Code or whichever tool we are using. By the way, I'm using more and more Gemini also on the side. So we are going to use the tools, the code generators, to create also the web API or the APIs, let's say, and then migrate whatever new features we have now in the API, add those in the front end, add those in the web UI, or maybe in the future in a mobile UI, etc., etc. It keeps the process easy to test. It basically centers the focus back to where I would say the source of truth is. In this case, if my data is there on my computer and I can interact simply through a terminal, yeah, I should do that. Makes my life much easier. Ground the context somewhere. The generated code is the best. It's the best source of truth. Flush out those details, build something, then add more layers to it, and maybe a fancier UI or mobile, web, whatever it is. So yeah, that's an idea that we are going to run with. What I'm going to do, like I showed you, so first thing I did was migrate the readme. Now if you open my readme, let me open this for you. My readme, I have now 2 readme files. I had created the readme after I migrated away, and you can, by the way, feel free to look at the repository. The changes are there. So now it has this. Originally this was the readme that was created by Claude. I had pasted it here, and that's how I created the new tickets, the migrating to the command line tool application. But like I said, the command line tool application, that strategy gets stuck because I can do only one thing at a time. Now I asked it to create a new readme and back up the old one. This one is the more interactive terminal user interface based application. All the tickets now need to be migrated. All of my existing code need to be migrated, and we'll do that step by step. And then, like I said, I like I always do, pause this video and then come back and show you the results. But the thing is that with even the command line application, as you're seeing right now, by the way, this is already great proof that your product works, because, well, it downloads the data. I can see for example status right now. It should show me, yeah, see 1300. See, it went from 330 items which are downloaded to 1330 items downloaded. So that's your real validation. And by the way, yesterday night this was not working. It was showing total item 0 and cached item 0. I simply asked Claude, like, hey, why is this 0, even though I know that in the download status it is showing download, something is going on. So it said, oh, okay, there was a mistake, there's a bug, it fixed it. So these kind of things, you'll figure out that as you do vibe coding more and more, and like I said, I don't even know Golang, by the way. I'm not checking the code at all. I have no clue what Golang is. I mean, I have a clue what Golang is, but I don't know it. It's not my language. It's not what I work with. I work primarily with Python and Rust, but this is not one of those. And so I'm like even more, I would not say detached, but I'm more enabled to take a step back from looking at the code. I'm not even curious, like I don't care anymore. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to build a product. I want to keep focus on the product, reach out to users, show something. That's what I really care about, and that's what I'm talking about here. Anyway, so thanks for watching. I'll pause it here, and then we'll come back once a lot more work is done. Hey, so we are back now with Claude has, I think, finished the first ticket. First, let me walk you through what we did. We migrated all our existing tickets so that they now reflect, wrong project. They now reflect what we are migrating to. So that's the text user interface. And then, so these are the tickets that it created for migration. So I had already gone through some of the tickets that it created for the command line. Remember, the command line interface style tool or an application is where you have to run the command every time with arguments. So you're putting arguments like pub data hub space sources space status space hacker news, and then when you do that, it gives you the status of the hacker news data. And similarly, sources space so pub data hub space sources download hacker news, then it will start downloading. So of course, when you do status, when you check status, it shows the status and exits. That's it. When you do download, it keeps on downloading, but now you cannot interact with it. That's it, right? So only one step at a time, only one command can go in and run the software, and that's it. That software is just doing that, exiting once it is done. But now in the terminal user interface, the TUI approach, right? What we get is we get an interactive application similar to what you can see with Cloud Code, that it does not do one command and exit. It stays there, it waits for your prompt. It's very similar to typical graphical user interfaces where the software stays, hangs around there, and just kind of waits for your signals for your interaction. So I migrated this was the migration ticket, and then all of these are migration tickets. I don't know what is going to go ahead and be done in all of them. I didn't check all of them thoroughly. Only the first one I checked just lightly. And this is also the fun part: when your context becomes smaller and smaller, it becomes easier to test. So when I open this ticket, I know that it's basically asking me to just go into pub data hub. So now there is only one command instead of pub data hub. The current CLI mode was pub data hub space sources download hacker news blah blah blah. It does not have any of that. It has just pub data hub, and inside it now has the sub commands, right? So we can do sub commands like download something, query something, etc. Let's try that. So pub data hub, we're already in. So, and there is no history. I'm going to add history, by the way. These things are going to be super fun to add, and you'll see that building this is very similar to how you would think of the interaction on a web application. It's not that different now, and we are getting farther and farther with the feature set. That the core feature set that I need for pub data hub is like be able to download these sources of data which are available, so hacker news data, weather API data, or I don't know, anything else, maybe even data from Indeed job posts, and then be able to search all this data which is now lying locally, and have advanced search on top of your data that is now stored on your local SQL database. That's the only objective, right? So if I can get there done just to test that whole hypothesis, to test that product through the utility of like, can I use it, do I like it, can I launch it on Hacker News or Product Hunt and elsewhere, will people download this app? Yeah, that's a great use case. Then add the web UI on top. Sure, this will definitely not be fun for a lot of people who do not have, for example, if you don't have access to, you've never seen a terminal, you'll probably not download this and run this. But maybe some people will do it, and there are definitely people out there who are already comfortable doing this. So for them, maybe, yeah, that's a great tool. Now you have a chance to have a niche audience, start somewhere, and then add the web. Nobody's stopping us from adding the web on top, by the way. That's the whole point. So what do? We do show. So first we ask for help. See, really nice. It still hangs there. Now I can do config show. So storage path, okay, that's where my data storage going to. Then I can do sources list sources, okay. These errors, by the way, have to get better. That's okay, we'll do it. Okay, sources, then status hacker news. It reads the database and it gives me this output. Great. And then let's see if I can download. So download hacker news. Okay, it's going to start from the current max. Great. And see, I still have my terminal now, so I can still continue typing. So that's what I was going for. Sources, status, hacker news. Yeah. Okay, that's a bug. It seems to have washed out my existing data. I don't know. That's okay. That's fine that there is a bug, but at least this concept that I wanted is working. I definitely need up arrow to give me history. So we'll add those tickets, etc., etc. But like I said, this approach, that we are now getting. Okay, so it's showing more of download. Let's see if sources, status, this approach that I'm getting to have a more interactive product is what I care about. Okay, so yeah, it definitely started fully fresh download. I don't know why that happened. It didn't care about my existing download from my CLI app. I don't know why, but that's okay. we'll fix those issues every once in a while, so that as they happen. Sorry, that means that that's the whole point of having a continuous software being built, right? Like I've said, this whole approach in this video series is not to have one time software. It's not to have one weekend project. It's to have software where we are engaged, we can keep building, we are marketing, we are talking about it. This video channel in itself is a strategy for me to market, to show what I'm doing, to talk about the products that I'm building. All of this is part of my reaching out to you, the audience, and this allows me this time because I'm not coding as much anymore. Anyway, so I'm going to see, the last thing I want to see is jobs. I don't know, I didn't have this before, so it's nice. Jobs list. Okay, jobs status. Is there a status? Yeah, download -1. Okay, so jobs. Oops, sorry, this thing is a bit annoying, huh? Jobs stop, I believe, and then download -1. Okay, download was cancelled. Okay, that's okay. So all of this, the UI looks still not as polished as I don't know, Cloud Code or whatever else, but we'll get there. That's not an issue. Now I can exit this. Yeah, okay, I exited. That's nice. Control D for exit. But yeah, I'm already happy that this is giving me results. This is allowing me to do most of the things that I wanted to do with the web UI, but now I have a simpler way to approach the product. So I'll move on to the next tickets. But yeah, for this video, I hope you understood the context, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to approach, and how I'm trying to approach building full-fledged maintainable software that we can continue building, we can get to the users, we can add features, just making that process. So of course this is also an experiment in my own ways to figure out what is this approach, me being a software engineer, coming into vibe coding and just not wanting to look at code anymore. Like, sure, if things get stuck, I'm sure at some point things will get hell stuck and we'll have to deep dive into some part of the code base. We are not there yet, so till that point it's all about finding good foundation. That's all I'm trying to find out. Good foundations, good anchoring points for us to use AI generated code on a daily basis, on a regular basis, to build the software that we need. That's it. Thank you for watching, and thanks for all the share and the love that I'm getting. I'm definitely going to keep creating these videos. I also started my website, so nocoder.com. That's the website that I built in the last video. It's live, but again, it has no content structure really. All these videos will go in there, and I'll lay out the nice content structure. I'll put a lot of text content. Please feel free to basically share this channel and the website, and then it helps me a lot. Thank you. Okay, this video is not done yet. I got very excited with what just happened. So I had not looked into the details of some of the other tickets it had created. So it had created tickets to improve the experience, the user experience of this application as we launch into the terminal. And I finished the next ticket, and I was wow. The history thing that, if you notice in this video that I've been talking about, it has already done it. So if you up arrow, you get history. I just typed those two sub commands. The last time I exited, then I typed them again, and they are there. So let's try it again. So source list, for example, and then maybe I do help. So now if you do up arrow, so you get them. That's awesome. It's already working. Let's see config, and then see config is now in this config show. So I can now do this source list. I can do sources, I guess, status, hacker news, and yeah, it's also picking up, by the way, where it left off, which is great. And now they are all in my history. This is, I don't know, this is fantastic. This is like, I didn't even think through, because this is just common pattern for a TUI, and it knows this. It just updated the ticket accordingly, and yeah, it's already here. Like, and this is, I think, what is interesting to me, even as a software engineer, that some of these patterns that for us we have to, and I'm not saying that it should create a lot of these things by itself automatically. I'm not saying that at all, which is why I go through the structured mechanism where you look at the tickets, etc. But I'm also excited to create these videos and see all of this happening, almost in like real time as I'm doing, learning, sharing, all of this happening. But this is fantastic that this is a common pattern, which I told you already in the video. Just like a few minutes ago, while I was recording, that, oh, I need that history, I need that up arrow when I press the arrow key, and I was like, yeah, that should be there. And the next ticket already had that. All I had is just, hey, Cloud Code, execute, like run this, create the work for this ticket, or attempt this ticket. That's how I say it, by the way. That's how I put it. So please attempt GitHub issue number 46. And that's it. Now we have that up arrow, down arrow feature like we have it in here we have it in our own application. Like, yeah, what does it, I mean, I don't know what to say. So if this is not convincing enough for people to understand that the software engineering paradigm is changing and changing massively, I don't know what else will be. Sure, it can also create a lot of mistakes, but that's the guardrailing that we're trying to create. Both me trying to learn and create through this video series, but also all of us. So many people are trying. There are brilliant minds trying to guardrail this process to kind of make sure that it does not go all out and do crazy stuff, delete your data or whatever else. And that's going to be a work in progress. But the benefits that we are getting right now for what, $20 a month is mind blowing. Like, I could not have hired an engineer at this cost and got this done so fast, so many levels of iteration, so many types. I'm an engineer and saying this. I'm very open to the criticism that it is and that this is going to get me. But we have to accept that the software engineering paradigm has massively changed now, if not totally entirely changed, and we have to accept this. We have to live with it. Of course, jobs are at stake. Me being one of them, I've not had a job for quite a while now. I was on a career break, and now I don't see myself being able to go back there and do traditionally what I used to do, how I used to earn. I don't think that's possible anymore. So I have to figure out new ways, which is, by the way, one of the reasons why I'm doing all of these things, because I'm trying to figure out new ways. And all of that, and all of us are under the same pressure, or at least under the same kind of situation. So that aside, this productivity that we get, that's definitely something that's mind-blowing to me. So yeah, thank you again for watching. I hope this interruption was not too much.